Hi there, today I want to do a video on things that we're not told about in schools that happened to community tribal people back when the Catholic Church gave permission for conquistadors to go and invade their lands. They took a lot of gold from them, they destroyed their culture. And one of the things they did that not many people know or speak about is, with the people that I know, the conquistadors used dogs to hunt them, their forefathers, great-great-great-grandfathers down, and then shot them with arrows to finish them off as a type of sport. Now you might say, well, you know, the Catholic Church has got nothing to do with it. The Catholic Church has got quite a lot of the gold that was taken. The Catholic Church gave blessings for the conquistadors to come into those countries, under the impression that those people were going to convert the indigenous people to Christianity. Now, why would you convert to Christianity if your friends, fathers, family are being raped, tortured, murdered, forced into slavery? It's not the type of thing that a good God would do. It's the type of thing that a demiurge would do. Nevertheless, these people have grown up within Catholicism, and Christianity has bled its way into the Amazon, has bled its way into Latin America, into the indigenous communities, and is slowly destroying the culture. Now, there is a global want to destroy all culture, to make everything multicultural, to bleed different culture, race, ideology into another race and ideology. And lots of people are saying, yeah, they're in favor of multiculturalism. Culture comes from the geography that you live in. Even the shapes of bodies come from the culture and the geography you live in. For instance, people in mountains sometimes are quite smaller, and they have different lungs because they need different type of air. They need more oxygen in their bodies, and they have different blood cells. So geography defines, to a certain extent, people, culture, ways of life and thinking. If you're going to take different ways and ideals and concepts of life and shove them into different cultures that have different landscapes that created those cultures, you're going to get energy blockages, because you have to think of everything as energy. You can't think of things as physical or concepts or ideology. You've got to think of all of those things as energies. So you have one energy that's coming in, that's been created from one different geography, and then you have another energy which has been created from another different geography, and then you're forcing those two together. The way that you force them together, you can cause wars, you can unsettle people, you can cause refugees, you can cause economic depressions, so that people want to move to different places, and as they do, the mother culture that they enter into then slowly can become quite diluted and cause problems with the indigenous people to that land, with the new incoming people. Now, one of the problems is that people often think that, you know, white people don't have culture. There is this idea that white people aren't indigenous. White people are indigenous. Anglo-Saxon is where the English people come from. We are English, Anglo, French, Anglais, Spanish, Inglés. Anglo comes from the root, same word, and Saxon, Sajone. We are indigenous. The Celts were indigenous. The Nordic people are indigenous. To think that white people don't have indigenous culture is actually quite racist. And to think that we don't deserve our culture because of conquests is another piece of highly racist emotional material. White people did conquer other countries, as did many other races, and slavery, which was done by the white people, was done even more so by the Muslims, who treated apparently their slaves an awful lot more worse than what white people did, but it's not mentioned. There seems to be sometimes this want to make white people feel guilty about what's happened in the past and blame the modern white people for ancestral problems. In the same way, you can blame German people that are living at the moment for the faults of the Nazis. If again you look at things as energy, Nazism was an energy. It was like a virus that descended onto the people, that the people imbibed, and then the people became the manifestations of that energy. But humans aren't that energy. It's just that they've taken on an expression of that energy. In the same way, the Catholic Church isn't a white thing. The indigenous people often refer to problems that conquistadors brought in as a white thing or a white problem. Catholicism, Christianity isn't a white thing. It came from Israel. It came from the Middle East. That is not a white person's location. That is an Arab or a Jewish location, or an Iranian, Persian location. I think you have to be very careful when you try to blame white people or a race for doing something, because what they've done has come from a mentality, an ideology, a perception, a way of thinking. And that perception, ideology, or way of thinking was largely influenced by the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church for millennia has been raping, abusing and killing people. And it isn't too much to push the mind to think that some of that evil mentality that the Catholic Church had rubbed itself onto conquistadors. And in fact, if you think of the Catholic Church not as a religion but as a political entity, then it's quite easy to see how they exported politics to other places and tried to dominate those other places in the same way it tried to dominate Europe. Today I'd like to talk about some of the problems that indigenous people face. The indigenous people are very angry with white people, and they're very angry with the government, which seem to be an extension or expression of white thought and white governance. The indigenous people that I know, that I speak to, their families, forefathers, great-grandfathers, were hunted down by white people with dogs that, for sport, went and let the dogs rip bits of their forefathers off and then shot them with guns or arrows in order to finish them. That was what they were exporting. The Catholic Church it blessed the conquest of other countries because it wanted to export spirituality. But you have to think that what actually is spirituality? If spirituality is a science of energies, and energies can be malevolent or good, then perhaps it could be a science, but a malevolent energy coming from a demiurge, a god which enjoys hurting, raping, killing, child sacrifices in Abraham, killing adulterers, killing homosexuals. Spirituality sometimes needs to be recognized as either good or bad. Spirituality is a very difficult word to define. But the Catholic Church allowed these sorts of behaviors to carry on. Why? Because it wanted to destroy the culture of those places. And then when that culture had been destroyed, then to impose its own culture on top of it. If you go down to the Amazon rainforest and you go into indigenous reservations, you might walk in and find quite a lot of people drunk, a lot of people playing music late at night, not many people having a relationship to the nature around them. And you ask them, what is your religion? And they say, oh, we are now Christian. And you ask, what's happened to the animals, the tigers, the spirits, the fairies in the rainforest that you used to praise? Oh no, we don't praise those anymore. We're now Catholic. Would you have any respect for the rainforest now? Yeah, it's there. The spirituality that Amazon people had, they used energies or entities in the forest. And because they had those energies and entities, they had a connection to the forests. Without those energies, they ceased to have such strong connection. Catholicism has destroyed, or Christianity has destroyed the connection between them and the rainforest, which allows them to, or it allows them to be ignorant or to suffer ignorance in that they no longer respect or revere the forest as much as they used to, which then allows abuse and contamination and pollution, which then destroys the land that they're living on, which then makes them seek money from the government, which then makes them refugees or poor people in their own country, when in fact the Amazon can provide a lot of the necessities that they need. But because they've lost that ability to be or to work with the forest, they then become poorer and poorer and poorer. I was speaking to an anthropologist the other day, and he said that Catholicism or Christianity has actually helped the indigenous people, because it stopped them from drinking. Christians in those places don't drink, according to what he has to say. And I said to him, but why did they start drinking in the first place? They started drinking in the first place because Christianity caused problems, separated them from their spiritual home, created a trauma in their lifestyles. And then there was drink in order to fill that hole. And then Christianity came again and then decided to help with the problem that Christianity had started in the first place.